Hello and welcome to another episode of Unboxing Women, where we explore the gender gap in the music and entertainment industry. If you're active in the music business, an independent artist, a musician, or are just curious about how it all works, then this pod is for you. My name is Dana Rex, and with me is my friend Micah Rose, and we are both independent recording artists based in Europe. After having been called a bitch for knowing what we want, we were fed up and decided to be such a bitch and reveal what really goes on behind the scenes. You can listen to us on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel. Today, we are going to talk about Keychange and a couple of surveys that they've been doing. So let's kick off, Micah, by telling everybody what Keychange is.
Okay, so Keychange, we got to know it as an organization that fights for equality in the music industry. Not just for women, but for people of color, etc. But it is fighting for 50-50 women on festival stages in particular, as far as I was concerned. Like, that's what I got to know them as on the Reeperbahn Festival. And our website says, supported by the Creative Europe program of the European Union, Keychange is a global network and movement working towards a total restructure of the music industry in reaching full gender equality. Keychange consists of partners, collaborators from 12 different countries working proactively to make this change. So that's there about us. And they go a little bit more into detail, or a little bit more in who we are. So they say they are a movement for gender balance. And I always think it's important to see what they say about themselves, like what an organization says about themselves, to see what they are actually trying to present, and then see what they are actually doing. So they say Keychange aims to accelerate change and create a better, more inclusive music industry for present and future generations. We are doing this via career development program for underrepresented talent, a gender balance pledge for music organizations, and a manifesto that influences policy. So,
Nice.
yeah. So what I've heard from them from the Reeperbahn Festival in 2019 is when we both first kind of got to know them. That was, I think, the first year they'd gotten funding, and they were applying for a second year. I might be wrong in that, but that's what I remember from that Keychange talk we went to. Basically, these companies or festivals, well, the companies that organize the festivals pledge to have 50-50 lineup. And that's not just, I think, their lineup, but also the backing crew, the lighting, etc. Everything has to be 50-50. And they then get financial support. And this is where the EU comes in. So the EU grant has financial support, which is how they're funding Keychange. And they are giving this out to the festivals that pledge to support them financially to be able to get all these people on board, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I see Keychange as. They also do a lot of programs and workshops and speeches. And so what about you, Dana? What do you remember? What do you see Keychange as?
Yeah, that kind of sums it up for me. I've also found, it's a very European thing. I don't know how many instances in the US or companies or organizations are aware of Keychange and are a member. But I have the impression that, it's really coming out of Reeperbahn conference in Hamburg. And, they started locally first. So they started with Germany, and they've expanded into Europe. So now Europe is, kind of knows what Keychange is.
Yeah.
And, well, not kind of. Yeah, they know what Keychange is in the music industry. Definitely women and non-binary groups know what it is. And they conduct surveys every year. And so we thought it would be a good idea to have a look at the results of these surveys. Go over them and just discuss a couple of findings, which are very interesting.
Exactly. So we have a couple of different surveys. Two of them are from Keychange themselves, and one is one that I found on the Keychange website, which is from Spotify and USC Annenberg, um, the Inclusion Initiative. So this is going to be really interesting because they all say they don't say different things. They looked at different things, and it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of measure up to one another and what they actually say. So,
All right,
without further ado, Dana, why don't you start us off?
all right, so we are screen sharing the 2022 Keychange study. So for everybody only listening to us, maybe this time go and have a look at the video on YouTube or the video podcast on Spotify. You can also see us on Spotify on video. To have a look at the results with us of this survey. And I chose this episode to not, have makeup on. I didn't have time. There is no time, people. So yes, if you
Yeah.
want to see my naked face, then come and watch us.
But be careful. I know a lot of you drive when listening to a podcast. So if you're driving, please don't just keep on driving and have a sit down later.
Okay, so
So
yes, obviously I will link these in the show notes as well if you want to have a look at them
yeah.
independently. All right, so this is the 2022 Keychange study. It says user survey on gender equality regarding music offers. And it's a report on the findings. So, the key findings, let's see, there's perception of equal opportunities as well. So, let's have a look at the objective and method first.
So, just a second, because I guess that's in the objective and method. So I was wondering who they polled
Yeah.
to find this out.
It looks like, well, if I understand this sentence correctly, it says they carried out a national market research study on user behavior and the expectations of music consumers. So this is music consumers. It's not people working in the industry. Maybe some
Right.
of them were just by chance,
Hmm.
but it's not a survey only done with people actually working
It
in the
wasn't
music business.
targeting them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it's
So
the
this is basically
consumption.
the outside perception of what's happening in the music industry instead of the inside look at what's actually happening.
Yeah. And so they
Okay.
had the survey method was an online survey in the Cantor Online Access Panel. I don't know what Cantor is, but there you go. They did a target group and then a random sample group as well. Then, so German-speaking population. It's a German-speaking population. So
Right.
there you go. So that's, Keychange and Reeperbahn. From 16 to 69 years old with internet access. 2,000 interviews. And it was between the 11th and the 20th of April 2022 that they did this. And so, they are doing a new one right now, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
I have gotten
results.
emails. Yeah.
You have? Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Because I haven't. Because, you're in a German speaking population.
Yes, I'm in a German-speaking population. I've gotten emails about the next one. I think that was a while ago, actually. And they are targeting more musicians again, I think.
Okay.
So might be the difference because we're going to look at the 2021 one next. And I think there was a difference in that as well in who they polled. So let's have a look at this first. Yeah.
Well, firstly, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the German population that they surveyed here, do you think that they represent Europe?
No, because every country in Europe is very different. Also, in how they consume music. I know that all the kind of, well, not all of the Latin countries, I think Spain and Portugal are very different in their music consumption. Italy has a very own market as well. And it's just a very different perception of how music is viewed. And then you've got other places like I think they're in the European Union, isn't it? Like Lithuania and stuff. Are they in the EU?
Well, I think we can say that this this study, I mean, I can definitely see Belgium in this as well. So, as
Yeah.
Germany is a Germanic country, I think you could kind of say, okay, for maybe the Netherlands, the UK, and for
Yeah.
Belgium, this it will be similar if they did the same survey. I
It
mean,
probably would, yeah.
yeah.
I think we have a lot of German music as well, but I don't think it's about what music you're listening to. I think it's about how you interact with it, and
Hmm.
how they interact with it. It's very similar to UK and Germanic speaking countries.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, well,
um,
I'm scrolling through this in the meantime, so it is half female and half male, and there's a
mhm.
tiny percentage of non-binaries that have been polled, and then the majority of the survey participants were between 30 and 49 years old. So you can see here the division of who replied to this survey. So the relevance on gender equality on the decision to purchase. The question is, I think that the topic of gender inequality in the music industry should be publicized more heavily. There's no split in gender here,
Just age gaps.
just
Yeah,
age. Yeah, but so the topic of gender equality should be more publicized. People, it's pretty much 50-50
in the younger generation.
in the young generation, yes. And then
Yeah,
the older they get, the less they think we should talk about this, which I find shocking.
yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not
Honestly,
in the young group, and I definitely think that this should be publicized more heavily because untransparency that the music industry has always had, and I think
yeah.
we should get rid of that. What do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, why are we doing this podcast if we don't believe in that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so no,
True.
I think
True.
I think that's shocking as well. I think it shows though that the younger generation is more aware of the problem, and I think that a lot of people in older generations still have um, the kind of mindset that you see in some women who don't believe in the patriarchy. So basically, like, oh, but this isn't a problem. Like, this. I don't see this as a problem. Stop whining about it. Like I'm fine with this, and I've done okay, and you just need to work harder. Basically, that's probably where that's coming from
Hmm.
because, like, they're like, well, we had to go through this, so why shouldn't you?
That whole mindset of, but that's
Yeah,
how it was in my day, so
exactly.
why should it be any different for the people after? But then,
Yeah.
I think that's very egotistical because you can
Oh,
counter
yeah.
that with like, yeah, but was that fun for you? No, it wasn't. So why don't you want this stuff to change for people coming after you? That's very,
I think a lot of people don't want it to be easier for anybody else than for them, and I think that's really sad because it's how we as a community have stopped acting as a community. We've become a community of individuals who all act for themselves, and
yeah, like you're my
it's
competition, you're coming
exactly,
up instead of like lifting them up and mentoring them,
exactly.
they're
Yeah.
holding them down and saying like, yeah, but it's, it has to be as hard for you as
Yeah,
it was for
precisely.
me,
Yeah.
which
That's
is,
like
I think it's
people
bullshit.
torturing people. Yeah, it's so much bullshit. Like, no, it doesn't have to be as hard. Why are you even there if you're not like, you're supposed to learn from your elders? If your elders don't give you a chance to learn from their mistakes, like, what's the point? You know?
Hmm.
And then why respect your elders if they're not even going to teach you anything? Then
Or
no,
change a
sorry.
bad system for you.
Yeah,
I mean, come
exactly.
on.
All right,
Okay.
next. This is making me
Next.
mad.
Yes, this is going to make us mad. So I just
Mhm,
wanted to skip to number 33 right now because we're
mhm.
going to come back in a second.
Yeah.
If you want to look at this survey completely, then please go ahead. But we're not going to go through every slide here on this podcast because then we'll still be here tomorrow. Okay,
Very true.
so female festivals, concerts. The question is, there should be more festivals or concerts that only represent women. And people say no to this. So, no, we don't want more concerts that only represent women. And this is a hard question because then you are, if you would say yes, you're positively discriminating. And that's not what we want either.
I think there's a difference. Like, I don't think there should. Well, I don't know. I don't know if there should be a space that completely bans male representing people from performing, because at the end of the day, that's not what we want. We want inclusion and um, not exclusion in that sense. But I can see why people feel the need for it, because there have been so many festivals and concerts and stuff that only have men,
Yeah.
and it's
And they're
never like
supposed
been
to
talked
be
about,
equal.
and
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, and then like people see that as completely fine. They don't think about it twice. But if you see a festival with just women, suddenly it's like, oh my god, where are all the men? Like nobody goes to a festival where there's only men and thinks, oh my god, where are all the women? Except for people who are aware of the problem.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes back to when we talked about films, and there's this statistic that in a crowd of people, you are only allowed to have, what was it, like a quarter women or something? If there's half women and men, people will think that there are more women than men.
Yeah, that's so weird.
So it's, yeah, exactly. So it's kind of the perception. So even if there's 50-50 women and men at festivals, people will think it's a majority female festival, which is it just goes to show how much we are used to seeing men and how much we are unused to seeing women,
Hmm.
you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, from this, I'd like to go to side 31 versus a page further down. So,
Mhm.
quotas are a good way of ensuring gender equality in music offers. So, a quota, for people who don't know what it is, would be a measure that is imposed on a medium, like, for example, a festival has to be 50-50, or a radio station has to play 50-50
Mhm.
male songs and female represented bands or songs or non-binary.
Yeah.
So that's what quota means. And here you can clearly see that people in general, well, it's kind of half-half if you look at all the survey
Yeah, I think
participants.
it's half, yeah.
Yeah, but they're very fractioned in age. So the young people think that it is a good way, and the older people don't like this. So again, the older people, to me, these are the people who are, well, maybe not of the music consumers, but of the music industry, like people who work there. They're gatekeeping and they're keeping the old ways alive. Okay.
Mhm.
So this actually mirrors that. And then actually, I want to go, if you remember this one. So people think quotas are a good way of ensuring gender equality in the music offers. Kind of. And if you then go to slide 37, the question is, music offers on the radio or streaming services has a strong influence on the listening habits of music consumers. Here, everybody is like, yes, whatever I hear on the radio influences me very much of my listening
Mhm.
habits. But you
Yeah.
just said that, so this means that what you're listening to influences you, but you don't think it's a good idea to have a quota, to have this being
Yeah.
equal? I
Yeah.
thought that was very strange.
It is very strange. And the thing is, I've seen this even in friends of mine who I've talked to about this problem that just women are not given enough chances. They're not given enough opportunities to be seen or heard by their listeners or potential new listeners. And they don't see it as a problem because they're like, well, most of the bands I like are male based. I like male singers, and I'm like, well, you're not even giving female bands a chance because you have so many male groups that you listen to, and
Hmm.
then all the festivals you go to have mostly male bands playing because female bands aren't given a chance. And they're like, oh no, female bands are surely given a chance. But just the male ones are better. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. That is not how it works.
No, that's not how it works.
It's and that is the sad thing, that even when you talk to them about it and you tell them that's not how it works, it just doesn't click.
They don't accept
Um,
it.
no, they don't accept it. So
So
that explains that disparity to me, honestly.
yeah, but this is a problem because that's just it. If more people would say a quota would be a good idea, then we could have quotas, and then radios would have to play half and half, which then clearly here people are influenced by what they hear on the radio and streaming
Exactly.
services.
Yeah.
So that would be a great way to solve at least an exposure problem. That
Yeah.
people would be exposed to more female and non-binary music if there was a quota, and but they don't think so. But here they do admit that listening to the radio influences them. So
I guess
this is a very this is very strange. This is
I think it's
people not
a thing that
realizing what they're saying.
no, they're not realizing what. Well, I think no, they're not realizing the connection. I feel so. People when they hear quotas, especially I don't know, especially in Germany, we're starting to be a little bit US-like in how we're like, no, we don't want people telling us what to do, and it's like
Well, they
it's
are.
really annoying. Yeah, it's really annoying, and some Germans are starting to behave that way, and basically, um, they hear quotas and they see like freedoms being taken away and
I see.
opportunities being taken away from male bands who deserve it and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, but you never gave female bands who deserve it a chance because of this.
I
So
just
it's
encountered a thing on TikTok about the Lilith Fair. It's a festival that took place in, oh God, what was it? Was 19, was it from 1996, 7 and 8 or somewhere there, where then female fronted and female bands, female singers just had, they had enough, and they started like calling each other like Sheryl Crow and all these people from end of the 90s, and they just said, we're just going to organize this thing called Lilith Fair, which was just an all-female lineup. So that was the first time that this was done.
wow.
And
Yeah.
it was so successful, and it was because back then they were frustrated with the radio thing, like no two female bands are played back to back.
Which we have confirmed
On the
that
radio.
is a thing.
That is
Yeah.
a thing, and this was also said by people who female. I mean, to me, big female artists back then who were already complaining about this, and yeah, so it's still the case now. It's a little less, but let's be honest, for 20 years to have passed, or even more, it's still a very high percentage of this is still true today.
Isn't Lilith, sorry to interrupt, isn't Lilith like the Queen of Darkness or something?
I have no idea. But in any case, what they also said was they were sick of the radios influencing consumers, obviously, by not playing female bands, which is a problem in this slide as well. And there was also this big question about, but women won't buy festival tickets. Women don't go to festivals. They're not good consumers. And this we've also discussed with the Beatles hype, where women came to the forefront of being consumers in the music business.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you have a look at this just on a timeline, because we're in 2023 now, you can actually see it happen. More and more women start having power over their own money. More women start coming into the
This is exactly it.
Yeah, more women start coming into the workplace. All of these changes outside of the music industry makes that entertainment is more accessible to
Yep.
more women because they start having their own money and they can decide what they spend it on. So, if we make that equal, if we make it equal for and possible for women to be to make their own money and have a say on what they use it for, then they are the same level of consumers as men. It's just that men obviously didn't want them. Yes, not all men. Let's not start that. That the patriarchy, let me say it this way, the patriarchy didn't want them to obviously have money or work or have their own house or their own bank
Yes.
account or just a decision about anything to do with anything of themselves. And so the fact that that has changed over time just makes us the same consumers as men. And still
This is the
somewhere,
thing,
yeah,
right?
somewhere they're like, oh, this can't be. You guys just stay at home and you don't spend your money and you don't do anything. Yes, we do.
Yeah. I cannot stress this enough. So basically, Germany reunited in 1990, and before that, I recently saw a post on this. I just pulled it up again, and they had different times when things happened for them, and in 1900, so 1900, just basically that was when Germany was still unified, still one. Um, they finally let women go to university, right? So that's one thing. 1900, that's 123 years ago now. Um, so we haven't had university access for very long. And then 1918, we were allowed to vote. And in
Wow, that's
then it
early.
splits. Yeah, that it is quite early, but not as early. Like some people had it in 1860 or something. Some
Yeah.
countries, I think New Zealand was one of the first.
We had it
Um,
somewhere in, well, my grandmother wasn't allowed to vote in her lifetime, which is
wow,
crazy.
that is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but then like things like driving, etc. I'm just going to skip over that. But money, right? Women were allowed to finally spend money, their own money, depending on where they were. So in Eastern Germany, it was in 1949, and in Western Germany, it was in 1958.
So you see,
Later
yeah,
than in Eastern Germany,
even if we had money, we weren't allowed to use it. You
exactly,
would
you weren't
just
allowed to
be
use it.
like blocked you're at the till and you're
And
like, I want to buy this. No, you can't. What?
And they weren't allowed to work in Eastern Germany until 1949 because they apparently had like one big bill that allowed a lot of things for women there. But in Western Germany, 1977. My mum was born in 61.
That's
My
crazy.
mum would not have been allowed to work until she was,
Yeah,
what,
so not,
60?
make her own money, etc. And so not buy tickets to
Exactly.
concerts because
And I
you
remember
don't have
exactly,
money.
not buy ticket to concerts, and I remember, and also like you weren't allowed to be in the army until 2001. So
As a
that's
woman.
crazy as a woman. Like not in all spaces. I think
No,
you
no,
were
no,
allowed to
but
be a nurse or something before, but you
yeah.
weren't allowed to serve actively. I remember my mum telling me, and I need to look this up, but I remember my mum telling me that women weren't allowed to have bank accounts until somewhere in the 70s,
That's
like their
crazy.
own bank accounts.
I looked it
So
up
how
while
are
you
you
were
supposed to do
talking.
this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I looked it up and the voting for women in Belgium only came into force in 1948.
Whoa.
The only thing I still want to show for the 2022 survey is page 40, which is this one. So it's about potential playlists. It says that almost 40% would listen to a gender equal playlist or already do so. And the highest interest is again amongst young users. So, yay for our younger generation, upcoming
Mhm.
generation who do seem to want a change. And the question was, how likely is it that you would listen to gender equal playlists? Look at this plus 50
Yeah.
years thing. This is just ridiculous. 4% of them, only 4 has already listened to a balanced playlist. And you know, people who don't know, I'm sorry, who don't know, they're just not answering because they're afraid.
They don't want to answer the question. Yeah.
51%. It's unlikely I will listen to a gender equal playlist. Who are you? What? How do you wake up in the morning and look yourself in the face in the mirror? What?
To be fair, no, I completely agree. It's completely stupid. But to be fair, if you look at the other ages, there are also 42% in both age groups that are
That's
not
true.
very likely or very unlikely to listen to gender equal playlists. They have less people who don't know. So they are more opinionated, I feel, the younger generations.
It's
However,
still not half-half. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a
it's
good call.
no. Yeah. So however, I don't understand how you can say no to something like that. Like, why wouldn't you listen to a gender equal playlist? What is it? How is it hurting you?
Yeah.
You know, what are you losing? What are you
It's the same
what
as the
like
quotas, like, oh, we don't want quotas. But yes, streaming services and radio do influence what I listen to. Well,
yeah.
it's in front of your face and you're not
Yeah,
reacting.
I mean, I feel like a lot of these questions, the answers are this way because of kind of um, what's it called? Like a spiteful reaction. Oh yeah, knee jerk reaction. It's basically you hit somewhere and you're like you get like a reflex reaction. And I think that's a lot of this really. A lot of people don't think about it and just hear gender equality and are like, oh, they're all these feminists, they're trying to make men less and they hate men and blah blah blah. No, I will not do this.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of it is that. I feel a lot more sorry for the people who actually believe in not wanting to listen to gender equal playlists because they're just against women, you know.
They're
I feel like,
misogynist.
yeah, I feel like some people or a lot of the people have internalized misogyny that they don't know about and they have a knee jerk reaction of not wanting things to change. And I don't think they actually think about it. So I don't want to classify them as bad people. I think they need to be educated and then make an educated decision. And if that's still their decision, then at least you had all the facts and now you're choosing to be an asshole, you know? So
That's the quote of the day. I'm gonna use this for for one of the things that we put on Instagram. Yeah, exactly. You're totally
yeah,
right.
so I just feel like it's really hard to be in a space where you kind of you talk about these things and you're trying to be respectful to everybody. And I do think you need to give everybody a chance to actually educate themselves. But if they give them the chance and they don't do anything, then I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna go easy on you. I'm not. It's not. That's not what we're doing here.
Okay, so now we have pulled up the Keychange 2021 survey, which was slightly different. Let's have a look first at the study concept. So here they clearly did interview music industry people.
Yeah.
And then 2000. So I have the impression that the 2022 survey was only this K part, the consumer survey,
Mhm.
with the 2000 interviews of music consumers, but not the
Yeah.
M part, which is the music industry people being surveyed. I'm going to already stop on slide 4 here because this is a big one. So equal opportunities.
Yeah.
And this is in M. So here you can
Wow.
clearly see this is the music people who were interviewed.
Right. Mhm.
And they say men and women in Germany have the same opportunities in the music industry. And here there's a split in gender and not in age, which I find much more interesting, to be honest.
Mhm.
And look at the perception. Women say that they disagree more with that we have equal opportunities, and men don't disagree. They say, oh yeah, we have equal opportunities. They just don't see it.
Yeah. So it's basically 55% in women who disagree and 32% in men who disagree. Pretty much all the same neutral. Like there's always people who like think like, oh well, I don't know. I don't really care to give an input here.
Yeah, why don't
Uh,
they fragment them? I mean, like polarize them, just yes or no. There's no neutral. Do you think it? Yes or no. How can you
y-
say,
yeah.
I don't know. I think the survey should be done differently.
Well, I guess this maybe this is the way that you kind of get people to chicken out.
It's
So
too politically correct. No, let's put a neutral thing. People are neutral to it so that they can, be like politically correct. That's bullshit.
oh, but like by the things they put there were probably 5 choices. So there was probably somewhat disagree, strongly disagree, neutral, somewhat agree, and strongly agree.
Maybe.
So you've got those 5 choices. You've got in surveys like those boxes, and then you tick one of them. So yeah, I don't know. It looks like that to me.
Yeah, it does. Moving on to slide 6, just following up on what we just saw, that 96% of the women surveyed have already experienced discrimination based on their gender. So the men saying that, oh yeah, sure, there's equal opportunities, and women saying, no, dude, there aren't. 96% of women have already experienced the actual discrimination. Just goes to show that the perception is very, very privileged. It's because they don't get in touch with the discrimination. They're not implied. It's not applicable to them. So it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
shocked. I'm shook.
it's the same across everything. But yeah, keep going. We're gonna keep getting shaken.
Shooketh.
Shooketh.
Oh my God. Okay, 7. And then they actually, so this is still the music people. Okay, then they actually asked the women concerned, like, yeah, more like gender specific experiences. Like, what were the actual discriminations that you encountered? And there's a bunch of things here. There's like allocation of gender specific skills. So people just, see a woman and then think, oh, she's, good at like, I don't know, being a secretary or whatever people
Yeah, or
stereotypically
she's
think.
the vocalist.
Or she's the
whatever.
singer or something. Inappropriate jokes and comments. 78% of women have encountered this. Not trusted with,
27% of men.
and 27% of men. Yes, there is a
Yeah.
percentage of men too. It's just, I mean, the difference
It's
is
vastly different.
it's vastly different. And not, I mean, these clearly these men who have been stereotyped or have like experienced this discrimination, those are the ones that have answered probably above, like, no, it's not equal. We do realize that something is wrong. I mean, because otherwise,
I think there could be a split actually. So it could be people who say, yeah, there's something wrong. But they could also be people who say, no, because I get discriminated against as well. So we all get discriminated against the same.
Huh.
So you never know how they might
Interesting.
answer. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is fair enough. We shouldn't rail against men being discriminated because we don't want that either. It's equality and not just we want women on top.
Of course. No, of course. Yeah, but I like
yeah.
that viewpoint. I didn't think of it that way.
Mhm.
Okay, so feeling...
Big one, not entrusted with skills because of gender.
Yeah. And then feeling of being listened to less in a team because of gender. 62% women saying that this has happened to them. I am often the only person of my gender in the team. For 59% of women, that was they were alone in that team as a woman. Assessment.
I find it strange that 24% of men are often the only person of their gender in the team. Like, are they in duos? Is it like them on the guitar and the vocalist leading? Is that why?
Is the
then
team only 2 people?
Yeah. I don't know how that number came to pass, honestly.
That's strange. 8 is the next one. Okay, so also the barriers here. were looked at. So the top barriers stated were nepotism, lack of transparency, and stereotypes. Half of all women surveyed, but only 15% of all men surveyed faced prejudice. So yeah, most of these numbers are much higher for women, like being stereotyped and prejudiced against, non-transparency in decision making, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they are a lot closer together than the ones before.
They are.
So the ones before had like usually at least a gap of half as many women as men, and in this case, some of them are equal. So like questioning of artistic creativity is equal. Unpredictable project work is more men than women, which I find to be accurate. I think that people think of that of men more than of women, that they're unpredictable. So yeah, there are prejudices here.
Is this the men being unpredictable or just the project work being unpredictable? Because I think that women, because they also have a caring role for children and family, that they put up that barrier more of, okay, this is, this I'm protecting my family time, and I'm not going to be on this project that's super unpredictable anyway. So therefore, I'm less likely to have unpredictable work.
Oh, no, I thought that this was like a prejudice they face, so that women and men, 24% of women, 26% of the men surveyed have faced the prejudice of them being unpredictable in project work. So
Okay.
basically not being there, not being dependable.
I don't know if, I don't see it that way. Because here you can see lack of job security. So 28% of the women thought that, there's a lack of job security there. So they can't count on their jobs. So I think that falls into the same line as unpredictable project work.
Oh,
Like,
right. Okay.
yeah.
No, I get that.
Or maybe planning, like women, maybe 2% of them plan just better than the men. So the men just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more unpredictable for them how much time they're going to have to put into it or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
No, you're right. You are right. I think that is the way it's supposed to be read.
Yeah. Well, there's
Okay.
different opinions. And ways of seeing things here. It's all interpretation, isn't it?
I think taking into consideration that it says the top barriers stated were nepotism. So these are barriers, and then yes, unpredictable project work is not how they are seen, how they are prejudiced against, but
It's a
the
barrier to
barriers.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're
Okay.
right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then I want to go to slide 13 on this one. Promoting diversity. This one I found interesting. So over 80% of the people surveyed found that mixed teams achieve better results. Men are more likely than the women surveyed to think that gender diversity has already been discussed and implemented, though. So if you're looking here at the first question that was asked, diverse teams achieve better and more creative results. 87% of women think so, but also 84% of men. But then, if you go down the line, they have, I would like my company to focus more on gender diversity. Only 47% of women, so half of the women think that their company doesn't focus enough on it, but only 33% of men think so. But, I mean, more than 50% more of them just said diverse teams achieve better and more creative results. But then they don't want their company to focus more on gender diversity.
Well, maybe they think their company already focuses enough on gender diversity.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the underlying thing. So because then after that, when it says, I would like my company to focus more on gender diversity, women are still a little bit higher than men. And then after that, it's gender diversity is an issue discussed in our company. 43% of women think so and 53% of men. And then it goes on like that, which suggests to me that women feel like it's not discussed enough, and men feel like it is discussed enough,
Yeah.
um,
Men
and
feel
so
more
I
is
feel
being
it
done while women clearly
exactly
don't think it's it is.
enough. Yeah,
That's a very interesting result. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Let's go to
That is
slide.
actually that is really interesting because
Yeah, I
it
like
just
this
shows
one.
kind of how people view things based on gender. So like men are seeing the activity and thinking, "Oh wow, yes, we're already doing this. We're implementing this." And there must be something happening for them to think that. But women are often in this case saying, "Well,
Not
no,
not
actually, it's
really.
not enough."
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if
Yeah.
it is, it's not enough. And that's something that I feel like a lot of companies still have, like they're not doing enough. Yeah.
And the next slide actually is again quota systems. So around half of the women are in favor of quotas for managers, radio airplay, and lineups. Only a third of men are in favor of this. This to me is fear. Fear because, well, as a man, you've always had the privilege of just being included and being there. And then I think that if less slots would be available to men, more of them would be scared that their incompetence, would actually now come into play, and they would have to actually work a little bit more and do a little bit more
Mhm.
to be chosen for those spots. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it is fear. Yes, I think it is also not wanting to give up something they see as already maybe being equal, or like they're saying, well, the person who's best for the job gets the job, and that is male privilege. If you say
Yeah.
that, you are privileged and you don't know it, because no. Not the best person for the job gets the jobs. There are so many surveys that completely negate this. There are surveys that clearly show that if it's the same resume, one is from a man, one is from a woman, the one from men will be picked above the one from women. And women who are higher qualified will not get that job, even if if they're the same qualification as the man, they will not get the job. The man will,
Yeah.
So this is not something we're making up. This has been
This
surveyed. It's been proven.
has been proven.
We need quotas because there is not equality in the normal system. And we can only change that by changing it through generations. And if generations are unwilling to change it because there are men in charge, then we need quotas so that we have women in charge who will change it. And no, they will not then start to go like, oh, I'm just gonna hire women, because we're not fucking idiots and we're not selfish and we're not the patriarchy. Okay, so no, you're not gonna get less. You're gonna get exactly what we get, which is fair.
Yeah.
So shut
Yeah.
the fuck up.
But they don't
Sorry.
want it to be fair, do they now? But I think this is a great slide, and it just goes to show. And I mean, this has been tested by a lot of people in the music industry, and not only people in the music industry, women who have been sending their CVs, and being rejected, and then sending the same CV, they just change the name into a male name, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden they get called up. That is
Yep.
so fucked up. That is seriously
Yep.
so fucked up. And it's the same with getting replies from any kind of campaign that you're doing, be it in the corporate world, like a sales campaign or whatever, or being in the music industry and doing like a plugging for your song on the radio. I have done this actually. I have an email address that looks like it could be from a man. And I actually got answers on that one, while my normal Dana one never got an answer with the exact same group of people that I was sending the email
Yeah.
to. Okay? The same exact group. So can somebody please explain this to me? Like, why? Because I'm a woman and I just don't get it. Why do you look at, oh, it's a woman sending this, I'm just not going to answer her at all, and I'm going to delete this and ignore that this person even exists, versus, oh, a man sent me this, oh, but oh shit, yeah, we're going to listen to the song, oh, we're not going to choose a song, but you know what, let me just get back to him. Because
Yeah.
it's not even about having the song played. It's just getting an answer of yes or no or some
Exactly.
feedback
Yeah.
or something. So I got a lot more, just replies of people being nice to me and saying, look, great song, but it's not for us or something like that. It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's really insane. It happens so many times, and I don't understand how that screening process works. Like, is it something subconscious in the brain that just goes like, woman, pff,"
Yeah.
and then like with men, it's like, okay, I'll just have a look at this. I don't know, because I can't actually think anybody could possibly be doing this on purpose. I find that
You can't do
actually
this
to be really,
actively. No.
yeah, that's the thing, right? I can't understand. I wouldn't be able to understand that. I can only think that it's something subconscious.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some idiots out there who actually just look for men's emails,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't think that's the norm. I just think it's something subconscious, and I don't know how we got to the place where that is what the subconscious does. So,
And
yeah.
there's this whole thing in gaming. I don't know if you've seen that yet. So on TikTok, there are a couple of women, exposing the gaming industry as well. Because when you're a gamer and you're a woman and you're playing in like these games, like, well, mostly it's like army games, like battle, like
Yeah.
go and kill, and then
Yeah.
you have to work together with like a team, or you come in and you're like, oh, hey guys, let's kill this guy and whatever. And if your voice is female, they just slag you off, or they
Yeah.
just like kill you, and then you're out of the game, and
Yeah.
then it happens over and
Yeah.
over again. And so they did this test with a group of men who used like a voice
A
changing
voice changer. Yeah.
on the
Mhm.
on the microphone, and they were so frustrated because they couldn't even play for 5 minutes before like being killed by somebody, or being slagged off as a whore or something,
Mhm.
something whatever else that
Yeah.
they always find to slag us off with, stuff like that, or like go back to your kitchen, or stuff like that. And it's only by having men experience it for themselves that they actually believe us.
Believe it.
So,
Mhm.
who are all those men actually doing it to you? Because if all the men say we don't believe you, and you have a tiny group that you have to like prove it to by, I mean, are these people gonna stop doing it after? Are these the people who are actually doing that? That's sometimes I ask the question. Or were
Yeah.
these the nice guys? How can we know which ones, if the ones we've picked to do the test with are actually part of the bad guys, or are just the
Yeah.
onlookers, and like they're actually nice?
I don't know. I saw that post, I think on Instagram or TikTok. I don't remember where it was, but it was Argentinian, right?
I don't know. There's a couple of girls that I'm following on TikTok. They're
Okay,
doing
yeah.
this now. Yeah.
And it was insane. And honestly, the things that they talk, like the things they said to those women
It's
or
disgusting.
men, it was disgusting. And I'm not I'm not a gamer myself, not hugely. Like I do game, but I'm not into shooters. I just don't like them.
But even
But
so, if this is a mirror to society, then we are explicitly excluded by men in a lot of activities.
yeah, and also that's gatekeeping as well. If you
Yeah.
like kill all the girls that come in, like, and also obviously this could be taken so out of context.
This
But
could be not a game. This could be a bar. This
right,
sounds like a bar, Women come in, what do they become? A target. Like either
hmm
for like I mean, for negative
well,
things, like we don't want you here because this is a guy's place and we only want to talk with guys, and not, it's not about being gay even, they just like, oh, we're hetero guys but we only like guys, we only want to talk to guys.
mm,
How do you, what, are you sure? I just wanted to end on this one. Is 17 versus 18. So the gender pay gap, people. So this
mhm,
is the subjective assessment of women versus men, saying that Let me just make this smaller because you can't see the side of the slide. Okay, so women say men in my job earn on average 30% of them say that they earn more. And when you ask men, women in my job earn on average, well, not more, clearly, but they also just say that 8% would earn less. And 22% of men don't know, 18% of women don't know. But here you can see again a big perception gap. So 34% of women say that men earn more, but only 8% of men say that men earn more.
Yeah. And what is it? 69% of them say that they earn the same.
Yeah.
And
then
in women say men on average, only 48% of them say that it's the same. So if you really have a look at this chart, I do suggest having a look at this this video for this. These charts are very eye-opening for me, honestly.
Yeah, and then we go to the actual numbers of the pay gap. So this is not perception. This is what is really, this is the numbers. This is salaries being compared. And here it clearly says the gender pay gap in Germany average across all industries. So there's a 19% gap between women's salaries and men in all industries, and it's 25% in the music industry. But men just said here in the music industry, they just said that they get equal pay. So you see, I mean, we don't.
It's not true.
It's not true, but they don't even perceive it.
Yeah.
Women do perceive it. They say, 34% of them say that men do. They know that this 25% pay gap exists. I thought that was really interesting. So I'm really curious to see in September what the new results will be and if anything has changed.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who they polled as well, because I find this to be much more interesting when they actually poll people from the music industry and not just consumers. I find consumer views to be interesting because it just shows how it is viewed in the general populace and what we're actually fighting against. Because as long as the general populace doesn't see that there's a problem, we're not going to be able to have a huge movement. But at the same time, the music industry is such a small, well, not small industry, but tight knit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's enclosed. It's very for itself and exclusionist. So basically, I feel like they could still do something if they really wanted to. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm depressed now.
Yeah.
Oh God. So yes, sorry that this was such a long episode, but I think it was super interesting and something to do this deep dive into.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna give you some of the highlights of the USC Annenberg one, which we will also put in the show notes down below, because they basically polled from 2012 to 2022. They had a look at 1,100 popular songs, and then they checked to see how much percentage are the producers, like how much are women, and how many get into the top 100 and actually have producing credits. So they're looking at inclusion in the recording studio and not just basically radio play, etc. So it's a slightly different viewpoint. And they basically start out with saying women are missing in popular music. There's a ratio they put here in the total number of artists. There's 2,139 artists that across those 1,100 songs. And in 2022, the percentage of women was 30% in those songs, and it's been averaging around, well, between 16 and 30% over the last 10 years. So the ratio is 3.5 men for every one woman. And this is not it's still a bad ratio, but considering what comes next, it still looks pretty good, because they say specifically women are pushed aside as producers, right? So the ratio of men to women producers across 800 popular songs was 34.1 to 1.
Okay.
So, so producers, there's 34.1 which we're going to just cut down to 34 men and 1 woman.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
This is insane. There's also something about songwriters here. So there's, on average, over the last 10 years, over those songs, 12.8% songwriters were female, 86.8% were male. Does that even work out in percentage-wise? There must be a diverse group in between there.
Yeah. That's
And then
it's
yeah,
it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's not weird. It's upbringing. It's the patriarchy. I mean, women aren't believed to be able to do these jobs, so hence they're not talked about to them, so hence they're not going to do those studies or not going to jump into this. And the music industry is a place where, let's face it, a lot of the jobs don't require a diploma. And you have more men who are bold enough to then go, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to become an expert in this. And I'm just going to, bullshit my way into it, basically, which works. I'm not saying that they're not good at it in the end, but that's more of a male thing to do. Like, okay, I don't know what to do. I just actually talked to somebody who said, that their son, he's figuring things out, and he's 22 and he's figuring things out. So he stopped school and he's like just doing random jobs, and this seemed to be, not. This woman who was a mother didn't really seem to be alarmed at all. Like, okay, there's just so much I can do. And it's kind of like he's a man, so he'll fall on his feet. He'll find something that he'll do. Can you imagine if this was a daughter? That's like a big no. It's like, no. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. Yeah. And it's a lot of parents.
Future generations.
Say again?
Yeah. I hope it isn't for future generations.
It's a lot
right now, it is.
Yeah, parents saying like, oh, the music industry, that's not a real job. And men get away with it more to creep into it after. Women don't. Women are moved on by their parents to something, and they just stay there and they don't go back to the uncertainty, which is the music industry, because we are taught to not do uncertain things. We're taught to go with certainty. Yeah.
Actually, on a personal note there, my parents didn't want me to study music in the beginning. They're the most supportive parents now, honestly. So they once I decided to do it, they were like, sure, if that's what you want to do, then we'll support you. But they did try to stop me from doing it by persuasion for a long time, because they wanted me to do something stable or something sensible first.
Get a real job. My mom actually. Sorry, Mom, I know you're listening, but you did tell me, why don't you go and study for a real job first?
Women are missing in the music industry is one of the titles of this. And I'm just going to say 1-2 more things about this. This is something that really got me. So they're showing that 22.3% of artists are women, right? So that's not hugely bad. It's not 50%, but it's, it's still 22.3%.
Still less than 1/4, yeah.
Yeah. 12.8% are songwriters, which we just had, right? So we just had that versus the 86.8%. 12.8%, that's like just about an eighth. And then 2.8% are producers. 2.8% are producers. Female producers are basically non-existent or not represented. They're not non-existent, they're not represented, right? And I think there's another one further down here.
I'm sure there are. They're just not allowed to play.
Exactly. So there's also they do cut this into people of color as well, and people of color as artists are well represented. I think it was around 50% over the last 10 years, but women of color are invisible as producers. So 13 out of 1,756 producing credits went to women of color.
Yeah,
13. from 1,756. Take 13 away from that, you still have 1,743.
Yeah.
That went to not just men, mainly men, but also some women not of color. So it's insane. And then like less of 1% of 1,100 popular songs that they polled have only female songwriters.
Yeah.
Less than 1%. That is insane. Among those is also 57% of those popular songs have no female writers. So
At all.
more than half are written exclusively by men.
Yeah.
And honestly, just have a look at this study as well. It's relatively short in the beginning. You get like the basic infos, and then it goes into more depth afterwards. But it also goes have a look at the gender gap at the Grammys in 2022. A lot more female artists were pushed, and in 2023 it's dropped back down. So it seems like we've had like an awareness, and now that awareness is going away.
I think we will have to do an episode in September when the new Keychange results come out to compare them with 2022, because I think that's really interesting. Okay, so
yes. So I guess that's all for today, right? We covered a lot of ground. So thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Unboxing Women. I hope it was really informational for you. If you've ever had an experience you'd like to share with us or have any comments on this sort of survey, send us a DM or tag us in your post with the hashtag suchabitch, or send us an email on suchabitch@unboxingwomen.com. Don't forget to drop us a like on Instagram or wherever you're listening. My name is Micah Rose and I've been chatting with Dana X. Tune into another episode of Unboxing Women next week. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.
bye-bye.
Bye.